The Mont Blanc pen trembled above the signature line as Kang Min-jae felt the crushing weight of his empire collapsing around him. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Seoul high-rise, the Han River glittered under afternoon sun, indifferent to the destruction unfolding 40 stories above. 3 months. That's all it had taken for the Kang Corporation to bleed dry. 3 months of hemorrhaging assets, of territories going dark, of the shipping empire his father built crumbling like sand through his fingers. The lawyers from Phoenix Holdings watched him with predatory patience. His uncle, Kang Dae-sung, had spent weeks convincing him this merger was survival. We save the company. We preserve your father's legacy. You step aside. We endure. Min-jae's tattooed hand, dragon scales climbing toward his wrist, gripped the pen hard enough to crack it. Then, a water glass shattered against marble. "Sir, please." The voice cut through his resignation. "Please don't sign that." Min-jae's head snapped up. A black woman stood beside him, her hand frozen near his empty glass. She wore the catering uniform, cheap vest, white shirt, name tag reading Adanna. Her eyes, wide with terror, were locked on the contract. "I explicitly told your company to wait outside," the lead lawyer barked. Min-jae raised one hand. The room froze. He stared at the waitress who'd just interrupted a billion-dollar deal. She stepped forward, voice shaking but surgical. "Clause 47B, that routing number. It's not a merger code." The air left the room. "That's a prosecution account," she whispered. "If you sign this, you're not merging companies. You're signing a confession." Min-jae had killed his first rival at 22. Not something he dwelled on. In their world, violence was currency. But sitting in that boardroom, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. The cold certainty that he was about to cross a line he couldn't uncross. The Kang Corporation had ruled Seoul's import-export underworld for 3 decades. His father had built it from nothing. A Korean immigrant son who'd started with 1 shipping container and a willingness to do what others wouldn't. Min-jae had spent 8 years since his father's death, proving he could lead. Now he was about to sign it all away. The financial collapse had been brutal and inexplicable. 6 months ago, accounts started bleeding. By the time his team traced the problem, the liquidity was gone. His uncle Dae-sung had brokered this merger as salvation, except this stranger was telling him it was a trap. "What's your name?" Min-jae asked. "Adanna Okafor." "And how does a waitress recognize DOJ routing codes?" Her jaw tightened. "Because I used to be a forensic accountant, before my university expelled me." The elevator descended in suffocating silence. Min-jae had his gun drawn, not pointed at her, just present. Adanna's heart hammered against her ribs. "You recognize the routing code," he said, not a question. "Yes." "How?" "I studied financial forensics before." She stopped. Before her life fell apart. Before her scholarship vanished. Before her mother died, unable to afford treatment. Before what? Shame and anger warred in her chest. Before people like you destroyed my life. Something flickered across his face. Adanna Okafor, Seoul National University, expelled 3 years ago for academic fraud involving a thesis on international money laundering. Her blood ran cold. "I didn't commit fraud." "I know." The elevator jolted. "You're the prodigy who got too close to something she wasn't supposed to see." "How do you know that?" "Because I know what that routing code means. And if you recognized it, you're dangerous." The doors opened on the parking garage. Min-jae grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward an idling Mercedes. A man in black stood beside it, flat, empty eyes that had seemed death. "We're going to my safe house," Min-jae said. "You just started a war." The safe house was a minimalist apartment in Gangnam. Not the shack Adanna expected, but sleek glass and expensive furniture. The man, Yoon, dropped 2 aluminum cases on the table. "Files are here. I'll be at the secondary location." He glanced at Adanna once. "Be careful, sir." Then they were alone. Min-jae shrugged off his jacket. "You haven't eaten since this morning. You won't be useful if you collapse." The normalcy of the statement almost made her laugh. But he was right. She forced down bread and cheese while he poured water. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "If your uncle is betraying you, why not just kill him?" "My world works on proof. Dae-sung raised me. Half the company would follow him over me without evidence." He leaned back. "And if I'm wrong, I'll have killed the last family I have." For the first time, he looked less like a predator and more like a man drowning. "You're not wrong," Adanna said quietly. "Prove it." For 6 hours, Adanna disappeared into the numbers. Min-jae brought her coffee. She barely noticed. She cross-referenced transactions, built spreadsheets, mapped money flows like a cartographer charting unknown seas. Around 2 a.m., exhaustion hit. She rubbed her eyes, reached for cold coffee. "You should rest," Min-jae said. Almost there, the pattern suddenly crystallized. Money flowing out of primary accounts into subsidiaries, then vanishing into shell corporations. Liquidated assets hidden across 3 countries. "Got you," she breathed. Min-jae was behind her instantly. "What?" "Your uncle's been bleeding the company for over a year, but 6 months ago, he accelerated." Her finger traced lines on screen. "He created a shell corporation to receive everything. It's called Phoenix Holdings." Min-jae went absolutely still. "The same company offering to merge," Adanna continued. "He didn't just bankrupt you, he orchestrated it. He bled the accounts, then offered to save you while buying everything for nothing." "Show me the access logs." She pulled them up. Every transaction authorized by Kang Dae-sung's private key. "Numbers don't have loyalty," Adanna said. "Only truth." Min-jae's hand moved to her shoulder, barely touching. "He raised me after my father died. Taught me everything." "I'm sorry." "Don't be." His hand tightened. "You just proved he's been planning this for over a year. Open the emails." The first email made her stomach turn. "The boy has gone soft. Too many rules. Time for new leadership." The second was worse. "Once he signs, the DOJ takes him permanently. I liquidate everything. $1.8 billion. Clean." Min-jae's hands shook with rage. "There's more," Adanna whispered. She opened shipping manifests. Cryogenic containers, medical equipment, destinations across Southeast Asia. "No," Min-jae said. "Not this." "The ghost ships," Adanna's voice cracked. "He's converting your fleet into organ trafficking." Min-jae slammed his fist on the table. "He's turning my father's ships into floating slaughterhouses." "We can stop him." "Can we?" His laugh was bitter. "You didn't sign. I stopped you. And now we know everything." Breaking glass came from outside. Min-jae pulled his gun in one fluid motion. The lights went out. "Get away from the windows," he whispered. Through the darkness, Adanna saw shadows in the corridor. 3, maybe more. Yoon stepped through the shattered door, gun raised. "I'm sorry, boss, but Dae-sung pays better." Min-jae moved like lightning. Gunshots cracked. Yoon staggered, body armor saving him. "Run!" Min-jae shouted. Adanna grabbed the laptop and bolted. Behind her, crashes, shouts, violence. She found a bedroom, locked herself in the bathroom. Pathetic hiding place, but panic overrode logic. She started uploading files to the cloud. 40%, 60%. The door exploded inward. Yoon filled the frame, gun raised. "Drop it!" 80%. "Where's Min-jae?" "Bleeding. I'm better." Yoon stepped closer. "Daesung offered me 30 billion moners to clean up this mess." 95%. "Last chance. Give me the laptop." 100%. Uploaded. "No," Adanna said. Yoon's finger tightened. A hand grabbed his gun from behind. Min-jae, covered in blood. He twisted Yoon's wrist savagely. They crashed to the floor in brutal combat. No choreography, just desperate survival. Adanna grabbed a towel bar and swung at Yoon's head. He turned, surprised. Min-jae used the distraction, smashing an aluminum case into Yoon's temple. Yoon dropped. Min-jae collapsed. Adanna caught him, barely. A deep gash ran along his ribs. "Did you get the files?" "Yes. Don't talk." She grabbed towels, supplies. Found a trauma kit in the closet, military grade. She'd never sutured before, but she'd survived 3 years of impossible situations. She could do this. "This will hurt," she warned. "I know." She poured antiseptic. His back arched. She threaded the needle with shaking hands. 3 years ago," Min-jae said through gritted teeth, "I signed a budget authorization that destroyed your life, took your scholarship, your mother's last year." "I know. You should let me bleed." "Probably." She pushed the needle through. "But then I'd never know if you're actually sorry." She worked, each stitch pulling damage together. When she finished, his eyes opened. "Good job." "Don't talk. You need rest." "We need to move. They're coming." Getting Min-jae to the SUV was agony. Yoon groaned, starting to wake. Adanna jabbed him with morphine from the kit. "Remind me never to underestimate you," Min-jae said. Too late. She drove south, knuckles white on the wheel. Min-jae directed her to a backup apartment in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Inside, she helped him to the bed. He collapsed with a groan. "Home sweet home," he muttered. Adanna locked everything, closed blinds. If she stopped moving, she'd think. If she thought, she'd remember the sound of gunshots and the feel of needle through skin. "Thank you," Min-jae said quietly. "For what?" "For trusting me when you have every reason not to." Her laugh came out bitter. "I don't trust you. I just trust your uncle less." She checked his wound. The stitches held, but the skin was hot. "You need antibiotics." Under the sink. Of course there were. She wondered how many times he'd hidden like this. She rebandaged him. His hand covered hers. "You're steady under pressure." "I broke 3 years ago. There's nothing left to break." "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough." "Would it have mattered?" She pulled away. "If you'd known I was a 22-year-old with a dying mother, would you have said no? Or would you have signed anyway?" The silence was answer enough. Later, Min-jae asked, "What happened to your mother?" Adanna's hands curled into fists. "Cancer. When I got expelled, we lost the university health insurance. We couldn't afford treatment. She died 6 months later." His sharp intake of breath. "I didn't know." "I know. That's what makes it worse. You destroyed my life as casually as signing paper.
Min-jae sat up slowly.
If you want to leave, take that laptop and trade everything to the authorities. I won't stop you. She stared. You're giving me permission to destroy you? I'm giving you choice. 3 years ago, I took that from you. For a long moment, silence. Then, I'm not leaving. Why?
Because your uncle is planning to harvest organs from kidnapped victims.
And I can prove it. She moved closer. Here's the deal. I help you destroy Daesung. We stop the ships. And when it's over, you turn yourself in. I can't. Then I walk. If I go to prison, the company falls apart. Families starve.
I can't. Then I walk.
If I go to prison, the company falls apart. Families starve. Then find a way to protect them that doesn't involve staying in power. She sat beside him. We have proof. We can trade it. You give authorities everything. In exchange, immunity and witness protection. You want me to become a rat? I want you to become human.
Min-jae stared like she'd suggested amputation.
But slowly, he nodded. First, we stop the ships. The first one leaves from Busan in 3 days. That's insane. We have no resources. Then we'd better be enough. Adanna should have run. Instead, she felt alive for the first time in 3 years. Okay, she said. We stop the ships, then burn everything down.
His thumb traced circles on her hand.
Why are you really doing this? To make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Your uncle is creating an industry of nightmares. She met his eyes. If we fail, we die. But at least we die trying to do something that matters. He pulled her closer. Not forceful. Just gentle pressure she could resist but didn't. You're extraordinary, he said quietly.
I'm a waitress with a laptop.
You're a survivor who sees patterns no one else notices. You're brave enough to call out a crime lord in a room full of killers. You're steady enough to stitch up someone who destroyed your life. His hand moved to her face. You're extraordinary. I'm sorry I didn't see it 3 years ago. The apartment felt too small. She could feel his heat, smell copper and cologne.
Don't, she whispered.
Don't what? Don't look at me like I'm worth saving. You are. This is a bad idea. The worst, he agreed. But I stopped making good decisions when I let you speak in that boardroom. He kissed her. 3 years of rage and pain and desperate survival meeting in that space. Wrong and inevitable. Min-jae tasted like blood and violence and something darker she didn't want to name.
She broke away, gasping.
We can't. I know. I hate you. I know that too. His forehead rested against hers. But you're here anyway. This doesn't change anything. We stop your uncle, burn the company, you turn yourself in. Agreed. After that, we're done. If that's what you want. She looked at him, saw vulnerability behind the predator. It's not about what I want, it's about what's right.
His smile was sad.
Then I'll settle for these 3 days. He kissed her again, softer. And Adanna let him, because in 3 days, they'd be dead or free. They spent the next day planning. Adanna built a virus to destroy the company's digital infrastructure. Min-jae contacted soldiers he trusted, offering them a choice: flip and live, or die with Daesung. Most chose to flip. The kill switch is ready, Adanna said.
Your father built a criminal empire.
Maybe it's time to build something better. He nodded slowly, then made a call. Uncle, We need to talk. Kang Corporation headquarters pierced the Seoul skyline, 40 stories of glass built on blood. Adanna and Min-jae walked through the lobby at noon with 20 reformed soldiers surrounding them. They took the elevator up. Adanna's hand rested on the gun in her jacket.
You don't have to do this,
she said quietly. Yes, I do. The doors opened. Dae-sung's office consumed the entire top floor. The man himself sat behind marble, smiling. Nephew, I knew you'd come. Guards filled the room, 30, all armed. Let them go, Min-jae said calmly. This is between us. Is it? Dae-sung stood. His eyes landed on Adanna. You're supposed to be dead. I'm hard to kill. We'll see. He nodded to his guards. Wait, Min-jae stepped forward. I have a deal. Let them walk. You and I settle this. If I win, the company is mine. If you win, he shrugged. You were going to kill me anyway. Why would I agree? Because my men spent the last hour planting C4 on every support column. If you kill me, you kill everyone. He pulled out a detonator. Dae-sung paled. You're bluffing. Am I? You taught me that if you're going to lose, take your enemies with you. You wouldn't kill your own men.
The men here chose you over honor.
They knew about the trafficking, so yes, uncle, I would. He paused. However, I'll offer mercy. You confess to the federal agents in the lobby. Tell them everything. In exchange, I don't detonate. And my men get a choice. Confess and cooperate, or go down with you. Dae-sung laughed bitterly. You think you've won? You're still a killer. Changing sides doesn't change what you are.
Maybe not, Min-jae agreed, but it changes what I do next.
Adanna pulled out the laptop and ran the kill switch. Every computer in the building died. Databases corrupted, files erased. The entire digital infrastructure collapsed. Dae-sung's face went purple. What did you do? Destroyed everything, Adanna said. Every account, every record, it's gone. Dae-sung lunged. Min-jae threw him down. They grappled across marble, desperate, vicious. The elevator dinged. Federal agents poured in. Everyone down. Guards dropped weapons. Min-jae released Dae-sung and raised his hands. An agent approached. Kang Min-jae? Yes, I'm here to cut a deal. I give you everything. The entire operation. Every name. In exchange, immunity and witness protection for everyone who cooperates. The lead agent studied him. That's quite an offer. It's quite a case. Trafficking, organ harvesting, money laundering across 7 countries. He gestured at Dae-sung. Starting with the man who planned to harvest organs from kidnapped victims worldwide. You're a traitor, Dae-sung spat. No, Min-jae said quietly. I'm done. They arrested Dae-sung first, then Min-jae. Tracy approached the agent. I have more than testimony. This laptop has every financial record, every email, every piece of evidence you need. We'll need your cooperation. On one condition. The victims we saved get protected identities and medical care. Done. Adanna looked at Min-jae. He was in handcuffs, but his eyes were on her. She mouthed, "Thank you." He smiled, genuine for the first time. Then they took him away. 6 months later, Adanna walked into a federal facility in Jeju. She'd been here before, twice monthly since the trial ended. Since Dae-sung got life and Min-jae got immunity for testifying against everyone. The Kang Corporation was dead. 37 indicted, hundreds of victims rescued. And Adanna Okafor now worked for the International Financial Crimes Division, hunting traffickers. She'd found purpose in the ashes. Min-jae entered from the other side. Civilian clothes, different hair, shorter, lighter. They'd changed everything for witness protection, but his eyes remained the same. Adanna, he said. Ji-hoon. His new name, his second chance. They sat across from each other. Rules said, no touching.
How's the new job? He asked.
Good. Shut down 3 operations last month. Saved 42 people. You're making a difference. We made a difference. His smile was sad. I'm glad you came. I'll always come. They talked for an hour about everything and nothing. Her work, his new life in a small town in Gangwon where nobody knew who he'd been. The therapy they were both in. Healing.
When the guard called time,
Adanna stood slowly. Same time next month? I'll be here. She turned, then stopped. Ji-hoon, when this is all over, when you're really free and I've finished what we started. She took a breath. You owe me a date, a real one, not through glass. His smile could have lit the world. Is that a promise? It's a fact, and you know I'm good with facts. Then I'll be counting the days.
Adanna left the facility and walked into Jeju sunshine.
The sky was impossibly blue. She pulled out her phone, 3 new cases waiting. 3 more chances to save lives. Adanna Okafor, the girl who'd lost everything, had built something better from ruins. And in a small town in Gangwon, a man who'd been a dragon was learning to be human. The war was over. The healing had begun. And somewhere in the future, when the world had forgiven them both, there would be a date. Adanna smiled and started walking toward whatever came next. If you made it this far, you know this wasn't just romance. It was revolution. This is what happens when the invisible woman becomes the only thing a kingpin can see. When I love you looks like burning a billion-dollar empire to keep a promise. This is love as survival, and survival as redemption.